Men are moved by two levers only: fear and self-interest. Napoleon Bonaparte. Most people believe conversations are about exchanging information. They think you say what you mean and others do the same. This is a comfortable lie we tell ourselves, a way to avoid the uncomfortable truth that every interaction is a negotiation, a subtle dance of power. Forget the idea of pure, honest communication. Underneath the surface, agendas are being pursued, frames are being tested, and influence is being wielded. The person smiling across the table might not be your friend. They might be sizing you up, looking for weaknesses, subtly pushing their own goals at your expense. To navigate the social landscape, you must learn to see beyond the words, to dissect the unspoken intentions that drive human behavior. We're not saying everyone is malicious, but naivety is a dangerous liability. Understanding hidden agendas isn't about becoming paranoid. It's about becoming aware, about equipping yourself with the tools to protect your interests and achieve your objectives in a world where everyone is playing a game, whether they realize it or not. This isn't about trust. It's about understanding the game. It's about seeing the board, recognizing the pieces, and anticipating the moves of your opponent or ally. Because in the realm of social interaction, information is a weapon and ignorance is a fatal vulnerability. The world isn't as it seems. Start questioning everything. Start looking deeper. You owe it to yourself to see the game. Hidden agendas are born from a fundamental drive: self-interest. Every individual, consciously or unconsciously, is striving to improve their position, to gain an advantage, to fulfill their needs and desires. This isn't inherently malicious. It's human nature. However, this inherent self-interest often leads people to pursue goals that aren't explicitly stated, to manipulate situations to their benefit, and to conceal their true intentions. Understanding this underlying motivation is the first step in detecting hidden agendas. Look beyond the surface-level conversation and ask yourself, what does this person really want? What are they trying to achieve by saying this, by doing this, by behaving in this particular way? The answers often lie not in what is said, but in what is left unsaid, in the subtle cues and signals that betray their underlying motives. It's about recognizing that people rarely operate with complete transparency, that there is always a layer of calculation, of strategy, behind their words and actions. Consider the concept of social currency. Interactions aren't just about exchanging information, they're about exchanging social value. Status, approval, resources, these are all forms of currency that people are constantly seeking to acquire and maintain. Hidden agendas often revolve around accumulating this social currency, whether it's through subtle displays of dominance, attempts to gain validation, or strategic alliances designed to enhance their position within a social hierarchy. The key is to understand that people are always seeking something, and that their words and actions are often carefully crafted to achieve that objective. This inherent drive for self-interest fuels the engine of hidden agendas, shaping the landscape of every social interaction. The psychology of hidden agendas is also deeply intertwined with the concept of cognitive biases. These are mental shortcuts that our brains use to process information quickly and efficiently, but they can also lead to systematic errors in judgment. For example, the confirmation bias leads us to seek out information that confirms our existing beliefs, while ignoring evidence to the contrary. This can make us blind to hidden agendas, as we are more likely to trust people who seem to agree with us, and less likely to question their motives. Similarly, the halo effect can cause us to attribute positive qualities to people based on a single positive trait, making us more susceptible to their influence and less likely to detect their hidden agendas. Understanding these cognitive biases is crucial for developing a more objective and discerning perspective. By recognizing the ways in which our own minds can be tricked, we can become more vigilant in detecting manipulation and hidden agendas. This requires a conscious effort to challenge our assumptions, to seek out alternative perspectives, and to question the motives of those around us, even those we like or trust. The human mind is wired to take shortcuts, but in the realm of social interaction, those shortcuts can be exploited. Awareness is the key. Another critical element in detecting hidden agendas is understanding the role of emotional manipulation. People often use emotions to influence others, to gain their trust, or to bypass their rational defenses. This can involve playing on someone's sympathy, guilt, fear, or desire for approval. For example, someone might use flattery to ingratiate themselves with you, making you more likely to agree to their requests. Or they might use guilt tripping to manipulate you into doing something you don't want to do. Recognizing these emotional tactics is essential for protecting yourself from manipulation. Pay attention to how someone is making you feel. Are they trying to evoke a particular emotional response in you? Are they using emotional language or stories to sway your opinion? If so, take a step back and consider their motives. Don't let your emotions cloud your judgment. Remember that emotions are powerful tools, and they can be used to manipulate you if you're not careful. Learn to recognize the signs of emotional manipulation and develop strategies for deflecting these tactics. This might involve setting boundaries, asserting your needs, or simply refusing to engage in emotional arguments. Emotional intelligence is a double-edged sword. It can be used to build genuine connections, but it can also be used to exploit and manipulate. The key is to be aware of the potential for emotional manipulation and to develop the skills to protect yourself from it. The art of detecting hidden agendas also involves a keen understanding of nonverbal communication. Body language, facial expressions, tone of voice, these are all powerful indicators of a person's true intentions. People can consciously control their words, but it's much harder to control their nonverbal cues. Pay attention to discrepancies between what someone is saying and how they are saying it. Are they smiling while delivering bad news? Are they avoiding eye contact when asked a direct question? Are they fidgeting or displaying other signs of nervousness? These nonverbal cues can often reveal hidden emotions or intentions that the person is trying to conceal. Learn to read microexpressions, the fleeting facial expressions that betray a person's true feelings. These expressions are often unconscious and involuntary, making them a reliable indicator of their underlying emotions. For example, a brief flash of anger or disgust can reveal that someone is not being entirely truthful. Mastering the art of nonverbal communication takes practice and attention to detail, but it can provide invaluable insights into the minds of others. By learning to read the subtle cues of body language, facial expressions, and tone of voice, you can gain a significant advantage in detecting hidden agendas and navigating the complex landscape of social interaction. It's about learning to see beyond the words, to decipher the unspoken language that reveals the truth beneath the surface. Finally, it is critical to understand that everyone is capable of harboring hidden agendas, including yourself. Self-awareness is the ultimate defense against manipulation, both by others and by your own subconscious biases. By acknowledging your own motivations, desires, and insecurities, you become less susceptible to the influence of others and better equipped to recognize hidden agendas in yourself and in those around you. Examine your own behaviors and thought patterns. Are you always completely honest with others, or do you sometimes conceal your true intentions? Are you driven by a need for approval, status, or power? Understanding your own weaknesses and vulnerabilities is essential for protecting yourself from manipulation. Moreover, self-awareness allows you to build more authentic and genuine relationships. When you are honest and transparent with others, you create a foundation of trust and mutual respect. This doesn't mean revealing everything about yourself, but it does mean being mindful of your own motivations and striving to communicate with integrity. The journey to detecting hidden agendas begins with a deep understanding of yourself. By confronting your own shadow side, you can develop the empathy and insight necessary to navigate the complex and often treacherous terrain of human interaction. Recognize your own biases, motivations, and vulnerabilities. Only then can you truly see the game. Consider this scenario. You're at a business dinner, ostensibly to discuss a potential partnership with a rival firm. The CEO of the other company, let's call him Mr. Harding, is charismatic, engaging, and seems genuinely interested in your company's success. He peppers the conversation with compliments, praises your team's innovation, and stresses the synergies between your organizations. He paints a picture of a mutually beneficial collaboration, a rising tide that lifts all boats. He even goes so far as to subtly criticize his own team's shortcomings, positioning himself as a humble and relatable leader. However, beneath the surface of this charming facade, a hidden agenda simmers. Observe closely. Harding consistently steers the conversation towards your company's proprietary technology, subtly probing for details about its functionality, development process, and market penetration. He expresses admiration, of course, but his questions are remarkably specific, hinting at a deeper interest than mere curiosity. He subtly downplays the value of his own company's equivalent technology, suggesting it's outdated or underperforming. This is classic frame control. He wants you to believe they're not a threat. Further, he subtly attempts to create a sense of urgency, mentioning competitors who are also interested in partnering with your firm. This pressure tactic is designed to rush your decision-making process, preventing you from thoroughly vetting the deal and uncovering potential red flags. He also builds rapport by subtly mirroring your body language and speech patterns, a common manipulation technique used to create a sense of connection and trust. This reinforces the illusion of alignment, making you more receptive to his proposals. He may even offer seemingly generous concessions up front, such as agreeing to a smaller share of the profits or granting your company greater control over the joint venture. These concessions, however, could be designed to mask more significant disadvantages hidden within the fine print of the agreement. Pay attention to the body language of his team. Are they as enthusiastic as he is? Do their micro-expressions betray any skepticism or discomfort during his pronouncements? Their nonverbal cues can offer valuable insights into the true nature of the deal. The true agenda, though masked with smiles and generosity, is likely not a mutually beneficial partnership. Instead, it's likely a calculated attempt to gain access to your company's technology, weaken your competitive position, and ultimately acquire your company at a discounted price. Harding's charm and flattery are merely tools, weapons in a sophisticated game of manipulation. To detect this hidden agenda, you must remain objective, resist the urge to be flattered, and meticulously analyze every aspect of the situation. Question his motives, scrutinize his claims, and trust your intuition. Don't be swayed by his charisma or pressured by his artificial sense of urgency. Remember, every conversation is a chess match, and the most dangerous opponents are those who conceal their true intentions behind a veil of charm and sincerity. Never underestimate the lengths to which someone will go to achieve their objectives, especially in the cutthroat world of business. The failure to recognize these hidden agendas often stems from a fundamental misunderstanding of human nature. Many individuals operate under the naive assumption that others are inherently trustworthy, or that blatant dishonesty is easily discernible. This is a dangerous fallacy. Skilled manipulators are adept at concealing their true intentions, using charm, deception, and psychological manipulation to disarm their targets. They exploit inherent biases, such as the confirmation bias, which leads people to selectively focus on information that confirms their existing beliefs while ignoring contradictory evidence. This can be particularly potent when dealing with someone who is eager to believe in the potential benefits of a particular deal or partnership. They only see what they want to see. They latch onto the perceived advantages, ignoring the subtle warning signs that might indicate a hidden agenda. Another common trap is the appeal to authority. Manipulators often invoke the names of influential figures or organizations to lend credibility to their claims. They might casually mention a connection to a well-respected industry leader, or cite a report from a reputable consulting firm to bolster their arguments. This can be highly effective in swaying the opinions of those who are impressed by status and authority. The weak fail because they abdicate their own judgment, deferring to the supposed expertise of others without critically evaluating the underlying evidence. Furthermore, many people are susceptible to the reciprocity bias, which is the innate human desire to return favors. A manipulator might offer small concessions or gestures of goodwill up front to create a sense of obligation in their target. This makes it more difficult for the target to refuse subsequent requests, even if those requests are detrimental to their own interests. The manipulator has essentially primed the target for exploitation by exploiting their natural inclination to reciprocate. They invest small to gain big. Emotion also plays a significant role in the failure to detect hidden agendas. Manipulators are masters at manipulating emotions, using flattery, guilt, or fear to influence their target's decisions. They might shower their target with praise to boost their ego and make them more receptive to their proposals, or they might subtly threaten them with negative consequences if they refuse to cooperate. These emotional appeals bypass rational thought, making it more difficult for the target to assess the situation objectively. They are playing on the heartstrings, clouding judgment and manipulating behavior. The pressure of time is another common tactic used by manipulators to force their targets into making hasty decisions. They might create a false sense of urgency, claiming that a deal is only available for a limited time, or that a competitor is about to make a similar offer. This prevents the target from conducting thorough due diligence and exposes them to the risk of making a costly mistake. The weak are rushed, flustered, and make poor decisions. They are reacting rather than thinking. The final vulnerability lies in the human desire for social acceptance. People are naturally inclined to conform to the expectations of their social group and avoid behaviors that might lead to rejection. A manipulator might exploit this tendency by creating a social atmosphere that discourages dissent or critical thinking. They might surround themselves with loyal supporters who will reinforce their message and isolate anyone who expresses doubts or concerns. This creates a powerful form of social pressure that can be difficult to resist. The weak succumb to groupthink, silencing their own inner voice and blindly following the lead of the manipulator. To avoid falling into these traps, one must cultivate a mindset of skepticism and critical thinking. Always question the motives of others, especially when they seem too good to be true. Resist the urge to be flattered or intimidated, and never allow emotions to cloud your judgment. Conduct thorough due diligence, seeking out independent sources of information to verify the claims of others. Be wary of appeals to authority or reciprocity, and resist any attempts to rush you into making a decision. Most importantly, trust your intuition. If something feels wrong, it probably is. The ability to detect hidden agendas is not an innate talent, but rather a skill that can be developed through practice and awareness. By understanding the psychological tactics used by manipulators and cultivating a mindset of skepticism, you can protect yourself from exploitation and make more informed decisions. Learning to recognize these hidden agendas is crucial, and it's an investment in your future. The Machiavellian approach to detecting hidden agendas involves understanding that people rarely present their true intentions up front. Instead, they operate behind masks, carefully crafting narratives that serve their self-interest. To unravel these hidden agendas, one must become a student of human nature, observing behaviors, interpreting subtle cues, and recognizing patterns of deception. The first step is to discard naive assumptions about honesty and good faith. Accept that many interactions are strategic, with individuals vying for power, influence, and resources. This doesn't mean becoming paranoid or distrustful of everyone, but rather adopting a healthy skepticism that allows you to see through superficial charm and carefully constructed facades. Pay close attention to the words people use, but more importantly, focus on their actions. Words can be easily manipulated to create a false impression, but actions reveal true motives. Look for inconsistencies between what someone says and what they do. Do their behaviors align with their stated values? Do their actions benefit themselves at the expense of others? These discrepancies are often red flags indicating a hidden agenda. Observe how people interact with each other. Are they genuinely interested in others' perspectives, or are they primarily focused on promoting their own ideas? Do they build genuine connections, or do they treat relationships as transactional, using people as stepping stones to achieve their goals? The way people treat others is a strong indicator of their underlying character and intentions. Analyze the context of the situation. What are the potential stakes involved? What does each person stand to gain or lose? Understanding the power dynamics and incentives at play can help you identify hidden agendas. For example, in a business negotiation, both parties may be presenting a collaborative front, but each is ultimately seeking to maximize their own profit. By recognizing this underlying dynamic, you can anticipate their strategies and protect your own interests. Listen carefully to what is not being said. Often, the most revealing information is omitted from the conversation. What topics are people avoiding? What questions are they dodging? These silences can be more telling than any spoken words. Pay attention to nonverbal cues such as body language, facial expressions, and tone of voice. These subtle signals can reveal emotions and intentions that people are trying to conceal. A nervous tick, a fleeting expression of anger, or a hesitant tone of voice can all betray a hidden agenda. Develop your emotional intelligence. Understanding your own emotions and the emotions of others is crucial for detecting deception. Manipulators often prey on people's emotions, using guilt, fear, or flattery to influence their behavior. By becoming aware of your own emotional vulnerabilities, you can protect yourself from these tactics. Cultivate a network of trusted advisors who can provide objective perspectives. It can be difficult to see through hidden agendas when you are emotionally invested in a situation. Seeking advice from trusted friends, family members, or colleagues can provide valuable insights and help you avoid making rash decisions. Be patient and observant. Detecting hidden agendas is not an instant process. It requires careful observation, analysis, and a willingness to challenge your own assumptions. Don't jump to conclusions based on limited information. Gather as much data as possible before making a judgment. Remember that people are complex, and their motives are often multifaceted. A single action may have multiple interpretations. Avoid simplistic explanations and consider all the possibilities. Finally, trust your intuition. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Your subconscious mind can often pick up on subtle cues that your conscious mind misses. If you have a nagging feeling that someone is not being truthful, don't dismiss it. Investigate further and see if your suspicions are warranted. The Machiavellian approach to detecting hidden agendas is not about becoming cynical or distrustful. It is about developing a realistic understanding of human nature and using that knowledge to protect yourself from manipulation. By honing your observational skills, developing your emotional intelligence, and trusting your intuition, you can become a master of deception detection and navigate the complex social landscape with greater confidence and control. Embrace skepticism as a tool, not a prison. It is the key to unlocking the hidden layers of human interaction. Think of detecting hidden agendas like understanding the strategies of empires throughout history. Every empire, every warring nation possesses not just declared objectives, but concealed ambitions that drive its actions. Publicly, they might claim to be acting for the greater good, for peace, for defense against a perceived threat. But beneath the surface, there's often a thirst for expansion, a desire for resources, or a strategic power play designed to reshape the geopolitical landscape. Just as a general studies the terrain, the enemy's troop movements, and their supply lines to discern their true intentions, you must dissect the words, actions, and unspoken cues of individuals to unearth their hidden agendas. Consider the Roman Empire's expansion. Officially, they brought law and order, infrastructure, and civilization to the conquered territories. But the underlying motive was always the acquisition of wealth, resources, and manpower to fuel their ever-growing war machine. They presented a benevolent face while systematically exploiting the lands they controlled. Similarly, in interpersonal relationships, someone might offer help with a project, framing it as a selfless act of kindness. However, their hidden agenda might be to gain access to sensitive information, to undermine your position, or to create a sense of obligation that they can later exploit. The key is to look beyond the surface narrative and consider the potential benefits they stand to gain from their actions. Analyze their past behavior. Have they consistently acted in a self-serving manner? Do their words align with their deeds? Are there any inconsistencies or contradictions that suggest a hidden motive? The art of detecting hidden agendas mirrors the historian's meticulous examination of historical records, piecing together fragmented evidence to construct a coherent narrative. It requires a willingness to question assumptions, to challenge conventional wisdom, and to see the world through a lens of strategic awareness. Every individual is, in a sense, a nation-state, pursuing their own interests within the complex ecosystem of social interactions. By understanding the dynamics of power, the motivations of individuals, and the subtle cues of deception, you can navigate this landscape with greater clarity and protect yourself from being manipulated. Consider the Cold War. Both the United States and the Soviet Union publicly championed ideologies of freedom and equality, respectively. Yet their actions were often driven by a hidden agenda, to expand their sphere of influence, to undermine the other's power, and to secure strategic advantages. They engaged in proxy wars, espionage, and propaganda campaigns, all while maintaining a facade of ideological purity. In the same way, individuals may mask their true intentions behind a facade of sincerity, empathy, or concern. They might use flattery, guilt-tripping, or emotional manipulation to achieve their goals. The ability to recognize these tactics is crucial for protecting yourself from being taken advantage of. Just as military strategists analyze the enemy's logistics, communications, and morale, you must assess the individual's resources, relationships, and vulnerabilities. What are their potential weaknesses that you can exploit? What are their fears that you can leverage? What are their desires that you can manipulate? Detecting hidden agendas is not about becoming paranoid or distrustful of everyone you meet. It is about developing a strategic awareness of human nature and using that knowledge to make informed decisions. It is about understanding that every interaction is a negotiation, a power play, a game of chess. By mastering the art of deception detection, you can gain a significant advantage in these games and protect yourself from being played. The ultimate goal is not to become a master manipulator yourself, but to become immune to manipulation by others. It is to develop the ability to see through the masks that people wear and to understand their true intentions. This requires a combination of intellect, intuition, and emotional intelligence. It requires a willingness to challenge your own biases and assumptions, and to see the world as it truly is, not as you wish it to be. The human mind is a complex battlefield, a landscape of hidden motivations and carefully constructed personas. We navigate this terrain daily, often unaware of the subtle power plays and strategic maneuvers that shape our interactions. To truly detect hidden agendas, you must understand the underlying psychology that drives them. People rarely act without a purpose, even if that purpose is not immediately apparent. Their words and actions are often carefully calculated to achieve a specific outcome, whether it is to gain an advantage, avoid a consequence, or simply to maintain a desired image. One key element in understanding hidden agendas is the concept of cognitive biases. These are systematic patterns of deviation from norm or rationality in judgment, and they can significantly influence how people perceive and interpret information. For example, the confirmation bias leads people to favor information that confirms their existing beliefs, while the availability heuristic causes them to overestimate the importance of information that is easily accessible. These biases can be exploited by individuals with hidden agendas to manipulate others' perceptions and decisions. Another important aspect of human psychology to consider is the desire for social acceptance and approval. People are inherently social creatures, and they crave the validation and acceptance of others. This desire can be a powerful motivator, and it can be used to manipulate people into doing things that they might not otherwise do. For example, someone might agree to a request that they are uncomfortable with simply to avoid being perceived as difficult or uncooperative. Understanding these psychological vulnerabilities is essential for detecting hidden agendas. You must be able to recognize when someone is appealing to your biases or exploiting your desire for social acceptance. You must be able to see through the facade and understand the true motivations behind their actions. This requires a critical and analytical mindset, as well as a willingness to challenge your own assumptions. It also requires a deep understanding of human nature and the various tactics that people use to manipulate and deceive others. Remember that people are masters of self-deception. They can convince themselves that their actions are justified, even when they are clearly acting in their own self-interest. This makes it even more difficult to detect hidden agendas, as the individual may genuinely believe that they are being honest and sincere. In these cases, you must rely on your intuition and your ability to read nonverbal cues. Pay attention to their body language, their tone of voice, and their facial expressions. These subtle signals can often reveal the truth, even when their words are carefully crafted to deceive. The psychology of hidden agendas also involves understanding the power dynamics at play in any given interaction. Power is a fundamental aspect of human relationships, and it can significantly influence the way people behave. Individuals with more power may be more likely to pursue hidden agendas, as they have the resources and influence to do so without fear of reprisal. However, individuals with less power may also resort to hidden agendas as a way to level the playing field and gain an advantage. Detecting hidden agendas is not just about understanding individual psychology. It's also about understanding the social context in which those agendas operate. Every interaction takes place within a specific social environment, with its own norms, values, and expectations. These social factors can influence the way people behave and the types of agendas they are likely to pursue. For example, in a highly competitive work environment, individuals may be more likely to engage in Machiavellian tactics to get ahead. In a close-knit community, individuals may be more likely to prioritize cooperation and collaboration. Therefore, to effectively detect hidden agendas, you must take into account both the individual psychology and the social context of the interaction. You must understand the motivations of the individual, as well as the norms and expectations of the social environment. This requires a holistic and nuanced approach, as well as a willingness to consider all possible explanations for the individual's behavior. By mastering the psychology of hidden agendas, you can develop a strategic advantage in social interactions. You can become more aware of the subtle power plays and manipulations that are constantly taking place, and you can learn to protect yourself from being taken advantage of. This requires a commitment to lifelong learning and a willingness to constantly refine your understanding of human nature. Imagine a scenario. A new project is announced at your workplace, a significant opportunity for career advancement. Sarah, a colleague known for her ambition, approaches you with apparent enthusiasm. She suggests a collaborative effort, emphasizing the potential benefits for both of you. She paints a picture of shared success, where your combined skills will guarantee the project's triumph and elevate both your reputations. However, beneath the surface of this seemingly generous offer lies a hidden agenda, a calculated move designed to exploit your expertise and ultimately leave you sidelined. Sarah understands that your specific skill set is crucial for the project's initial stages. She needs your knowledge to lay the groundwork, to solve the intricate problems that will inevitably arise at the beginning. Her plan isn't to genuinely collaborate, but to extract your intellectual property, absorbing your insights and solutions as her own. Once the project gains momentum and your specialized skills are no longer indispensable, she will strategically diminish your role, subtly shifting the focus to her own contributions and ultimately taking credit for the overall success. This manipulation is rarely overt. It manifests in subtle ways, such as her downplaying your ideas in meetings, rephrasing your suggestions as her own, or subtly excluding you from key decision-making processes. She might claim that your contributions are valuable but frame them as merely supportive to her overarching vision. The key to Sarah's strategy is creating a facade of collaboration while covertly undermining your position. She uses flattery and appeals to your ego to initially draw you in, highlighting your unique talents and expressing admiration for your problem-solving abilities. This creates a sense of trust and reciprocity, making you more likely to share your knowledge and insights without suspicion. As the project progresses, she subtly shifts the dynamic, gradually asserting her dominance and subtly diminishing your perceived value. She might introduce new team members who are loyal to her, creating a power imbalance and further isolating you. The subtle nature of these tactics makes them difficult to detect, especially for those who are naturally trusting and collaborative. Sarah relies on the inherent human desire for social harmony and the tendency to avoid conflict. By maintaining a veneer of politeness and professionalism, she disarms her target, making it less likely that they will challenge her actions or question her motives. Detecting this hidden agenda requires a keen awareness of social dynamics and a willingness to look beyond surface appearances. It involves paying close attention to subtle cues, such as changes in tone, body language, and patterns of communication. It also requires a critical assessment of the power dynamics at play and a willingness to challenge assumptions about the intentions of others. In this scenario, the ability to recognize Sarah's manipulative tactics is crucial for protecting your own interests and preventing her from exploiting your expertise. It requires a proactive approach, involving clear communication, assertive boundary setting, and a willingness to defend your contributions. It also requires a strategic mindset, where you anticipate potential threats and develop countermeasures to mitigate the risks. Recognizing that every conversation is a chess match allows you to see these interactions not merely as collaborations, but as subtle power plays, requiring careful navigation and strategic thinking. The goal isn't necessarily to become cynical or distrustful, but to develop a heightened awareness of the underlying dynamics and a willingness to protect yourself from being manipulated. The failure to detect hidden agendas often stems from a fundamental misunderstanding of human nature and the social incentives that drive behavior. Many individuals operate under the assumption that most people are inherently honest and well-intentioned, a naive belief that can be easily exploited by those with ulterior motives. This inherent trust, while admirable in principle, blinds them to the subtle cues and manipulative tactics employed by others. They prioritize maintaining a positive social facade over critically assessing the situation, a vulnerability that renders them susceptible to manipulation. This is the essence of the trap. It's not just about failing to see the deception. It's about actively choosing to ignore the warning signs in favor of preserving a comfortable, albeit false, reality. The weak fail because they prioritize social comfort over self-preservation. They choose to believe the story they're being told, even when their intuition screams otherwise, because confronting the truth would require them to step outside their comfort zone and engage in potentially uncomfortable conflict. They avoid questioning, probing, or challenging the narrative, fearing that doing so will disrupt the established social order and potentially damage their relationships. This fear of confrontation becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, as it allows manipulators to operate with impunity, knowing that their targets are unlikely to resist. The weak also fail because they underestimate the sophistication of manipulative techniques. They assume that manipulation is always overt and obvious, failing to recognize the subtle and nuanced ways in which it can be employed. They are easily deceived by plausible explanations, feigned sincerity, and carefully crafted narratives that appeal to their emotions and biases. They lack the critical thinking skills and analytical mindset necessary to dissect complex social interactions and identify the underlying power dynamics at play. They see the surface-level performance but fail to recognize the strategic calculations and hidden agendas that drive it. Furthermore, the weak often fall prey to the trap of emotional reasoning, allowing their feelings to cloud their judgment and override their rational thinking. They may be swayed by appeals to their empathy, guilt, or sense of obligation, making them more likely to comply with requests that are not in their best interests. They are easily manipulated because they are emotionally vulnerable, lacking the emotional resilience and self-awareness necessary to resist such tactics. They struggle to separate their emotions from their logic, allowing manipulators to exploit their emotional weaknesses and gain control over their decision-making process. This emotional reasoning is amplified by a lack of self-confidence and a fear of asserting their own needs and boundaries. They prioritize the needs of others over their own, often sacrificing their own well-being in an attempt to please or appease those around them. This self-sacrificing behavior makes them easy targets for manipulators, who can exploit their willingness to prioritize others' needs and desires. They are unable to effectively advocate for themselves or assert their own interests, making them vulnerable to exploitation and abuse. They lack the assertiveness and self-assurance necessary to stand up for themselves and defend their boundaries, allowing others to encroach upon them without resistance. This lack of self-confidence is often rooted in a deep-seated belief that they are not worthy of respect or deserving of having their needs met. They internalize negative messages and self-limiting beliefs, which further undermine their ability to assert themselves and protect their interests. They are trapped in a cycle of self-doubt and self-deprecation, which reinforces their vulnerability to manipulation and exploitation. The weak also fail because they are too focused on the immediate consequences of their actions, neglecting to consider the long-term implications. They may be willing to compromise their values or principles in order to avoid immediate conflict or gain short-term benefits, failing to recognize that such compromises can have significant long-term consequences. They lack the strategic foresight necessary to anticipate potential threats and develop proactive countermeasures. They are reactive rather than proactive, constantly responding to events as they unfold rather than anticipating and preparing for them. This lack of strategic thinking leaves them vulnerable to manipulation and exploitation, as they are always one step behind those who are actively seeking to take advantage of them. They fail to see the bigger picture, focusing only on the immediate details and missing the underlying patterns and trends that reveal the true nature of the situation. This myopia prevents them from effectively navigating complex social interactions and protecting their own interests. The ability to detect hidden agendas is not a passive skill. It's an active defense, a constant calibration of your awareness against the subtle shifts in behavior, the calculated phrasing, and the unspoken needs driving the interactions around you. It demands a relentless questioning of motives, not from a place of paranoia, but from a position of strategic clarity. Assume that every interaction is a negotiation, whether explicit or implicit, and that every participant has a desired outcome, a hidden objective they are striving to achieve. Begin to map the conversational landscape, identifying the power dynamics at play and the resources each participant is attempting to acquire or protect. The most effective manipulators are masters of disguise, adept at concealing their true intentions behind a facade of charm, empathy, or shared interests. They use emotional appeals to bypass rational thought, creating a sense of urgency or obligation that clouds judgment and compels compliance. Beware of those who shower you with excessive praise or flattery, as their objective may be to gain your trust and lower your defenses. Similarly, be wary of those who constantly seek your approval or validation, as they may be attempting to manipulate you through your own desire to be liked or admired. True connection is built on mutual respect and genuine understanding, not on manufactured emotions or calculated appeals to ego. Furthermore, the detection of hidden agendas requires a deep understanding of human psychology, specifically the underlying motivations that drive behavior. People are often driven by a desire for power, control, status, or validation. Understanding these core motivations can help you to decipher the hidden agendas behind their actions. For example, someone who is constantly seeking attention may be driven by a deep-seated need for validation, while someone who is always trying to control the conversation may be motivated by a desire for power. By recognizing these underlying motivations, you can begin to see through the surface-level behavior and identify the true objectives. Detecting hidden agendas is not about being cynical or suspicious of everyone you meet. It is about being aware, observant, and critically evaluating the information you receive. It is about recognizing that people often have ulterior motives and that it is your responsibility to protect yourself from being manipulated or exploited. It is about mastering the art of social chess, anticipating your opponent's moves and positioning yourself for victory.